Welcome to Swala Nyeti, the law podcast that pairs a layman and a lawyer to answer your legal questions of the day. Swala Nyeti is sponsored by the law firm of Kigwata and Company Advocates and is intended for educational purposes only.
Welcome to episode 18 of Swala Nyeti. This is Harry Karanja, aka the lawyer Wakili, and I am joined here as always by Gashao Patrick, representing the layman.
Today we should have a red and blue corner. You know why?
Tell me.
2nd September. And today is Kenny Reeves' birthday.
All right. Is the same Keanu Reeves of the Matrix?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
I see you know these things. Now, in the Matrix,
Yeah.
there's the red pill and the blue pill. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
And sometimes Swala Nyeti reminds me, now that I think of it,
Uh-huh.
you can choose to take the red pill
Yes.
and know an unpleasant truth,
Uh-huh.
or you could take the blue pill
Uh-huh.
and live in peaceful, blissful oblivion.
Okay, so which pill are we going to be taking today?
Red pill.
Of course. Let's go for it.
Okay, guys. Our question we have today is from Johnny, who asks, I am a college student, but I have big dreams. Last year, I met this rich mama on Facebook. We flirted for a while before starting an affair. She's much older than me, but she's loaded, so she takes good care of me. In fact, we are chatting on Facebook, and she said she would get married. We should get married. But only if I promised that if I left her, I wouldn't get a dime. I said, okay, but I have been thinking lately. I want to marry her, but if I get tired of her, I would like to divorce her and get half her property. Is this something I can do?
Okay, Johnny. So let me see if I get this right. Johnny is a college student who wants to get married to a much older and richer lady. And they had a chat on Facebook where they spoke about this. But she said that if he leaves her, she doesn't get a dime. And he now wants to get advice on whether he can marry her, divorce her, and get half her property. Is that about right?
Yes, Wakili. And we may not be marriage counselors, but Johnny, go for it. Go get your money.
Gashao, I think I will repeat that we are not marriage counselors. So let's do this. Let's look at the legal issues which come up here. And the way I see it, I mean, Johnny wants to know if he's entitled to half of the matrimonial property in the case of divorce.
Correct.
But of course, something else must first be established, and it's whether such a marriage would even be valid to begin with.
Is there a way to invalidate Johnny's future marriage?
Well, so there's a possibility that the purpose for which he's getting married, is not it's a fraudulent purpose. And if that's the case, then such a union would not be considered a marriage.
How do you determine a fraudulent purpose?
Of course, you're looking at a situation which would have to be proved in a court of law with evidence. But the idea here is that people should not willfully enter into a marriage for a fraudulent purpose, because the law cannot encourage such actions.
But how can you... Okay, before even we determine the intentions, are there things that are considered fraudulent for getting married?
Well, anything which would be fraudulent in any other sphere of law would be fraudulent as well in this case. I mean, I can just give an example. Perhaps someone wants to enter into a marriage to, let's say, to avoid criminal prosecution. For example, you know that a husband and wife cannot testify against each other in criminal court. And maybe someone wants to get into a marriage union so as to avoid this. And this could be an example of a fraudulent reason why you want to get married.
So, I mean, are you saying that I can marry somebody who I know knows I committed a crime, and so therefore, if we are married, they cannot go to court against me?
Well, don't get any ideas. Like I've said, if you try and willfully enter into a marriage for a fraudulent purpose, it will not be considered a marriage under law. So what you're trying to do is defeated to begin with.
But Johnny looks like he loves this lady.
Okay, let's assume that the purpose for which he's getting married is not fraudulent, and then we would look at what he's asking about sharing half the property. And something he should understand is that when it comes to matrimonial property, marriage does not change the rights that each spouse has over their property. Meaning that whatever this lady had before she married Johnny, if they get married, remains hers. So it's not magically going to be his property.
He's not going to be entitled to what he owned before the marriage.
Correct. So the only way that he might be entitled to matrimonial property is subject to there not being a matrimonial property agreement. Then
Matrimonial property agreement.
Yeah, let me come to that a bit later.
Okay.
So let's assume that there is no matrimonial property agreement. Then the only property that Johnny would be entitled to is property which was acquired
During their union.
Exactly, during their marriage.
Yeah.
It was acquired during their marriage. So any other property which he had before he cannot lay any claim to it.
And this property acquired during marriage
Mhm.
is shared halfway.
No, it's not necessarily shared halfway. It could. What will happen is, unless there is, let me say, any evidence to the contrary, it will be assumed that this property was contributed to equally. And contribution is what determines how property will be split.
But what if, okay, I'm concerned because what if one person cannot contribute money, then what?
Okay, so this is actually a very common occurrence, and you usually find it whereby people get married and normally the husband is the one who goes to work while the wife remains at home and takes care of the children and the like. And then maybe they accumulate a lot of property, and at the end of the day he says, I'm the one who bought all this. And the law has a way to cure this, and the way it does is because the way it cures this is that it considers both monetary and non-monetary contribution in determining how to split matrimonial property. So even if someone does not have money to purchase the property, but they made a non-monetary contribution, and a good example, like I mentioned, is taking care of the home while the other one was at work, then they are entitled to also get a share of the property.
Okay, there's an issue raised of an agreement.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. So we said that unless there is no matrimonial property agreement, you would be looking at sharing this property based on your contribution. And this matrimonial property agreement it's more commonly referred to as a prenuptial.
The prenup.
A prenup, yes. So a prenup. A prenup could simply say that, hey, if we're going to get married, whatever we get during the marriage or whatever happens, we're not going to share. Okay? So if there was such an agreement, it doesn't matter what the law specifies as contribution or etc.
But Wakili, they would have to prove that there was such an agreement. How do you do it? You have to write it down, I guess. So how do you go about it?
No, you don't have to write it down.
You don't have to write it down?
No. You see, contract law in Kenya doesn't require that a contract be written for it to be valid. A contract could be oral and still valid. Instead, we look at other things to determine whether a contract is valid or not. For example, we look at whether there was an offer and whether the offer was accepted, whether the people making the offer and acceptance had capacity to do so. Usually to be over 18 and the like. So such things, and whether there was a consideration for whatever was offered and accepted. So if these things are present, then, like I said, it doesn't have to be in writing or stamped or, sealed. That alone could make it a valid contract and a valid prenuptial agreement.
That makes me wonder. Johnny wrote that, in fact, we were chatting on Facebook and she said we should get married, but only if I promise that if I left her, I wouldn't get a dime. Is that a prenup?
It could be a prenup. It could be, because there sounds to be an offer there.
And
there sounds to be an acceptance. So it's possible. So this would now effectively bar Johnny from making any claim as to matrimonial property.
And then it looks like Johnny can't get anything out of this divorce if there was a marriage and a divorce.
Not entirely true. there is something possible for Johnny to get, which is spousal maintenance.
Oh.
So spousal maintenance essentially is whereby one spouse pays the other spouse money after divorce. And this is usually it usually happens when the spouse who is being paid cannot maintain themselves, cannot earn an income. Okay. So yeah, it's a long shot, but it's
But that
possible.
would mean that John has to prove that he has no way of earning, maybe because he's a student. And also, Akili, what happens when he gets a job?
Exactly. So spousal maintenance orders usually will only apply until that spouse is able to earn money. So this limits how long it can work. And of course, the wife could also always go to court and ask for the orders to be varied if she believes that now
He's
Johnny,
taking advantage or something, eh?
well, if she can prove that Johnny is earning an income, then there is no justifiable reason for her to continue maintaining him.
And in this case, sorry to cut you short, in these divorce cases, you get these payments upfront. Like when you decide the case is going on, you just start paying.
That's one possible option. You can get a one-off payment, or you could get monthly or periodic payments, or you could get a combination of both.
At what part of the divorce do you start getting paid?
Only after the divorce is gone through and it's over.
At the end?
Exactly. And in fact, that's for spousal maintenance. But if there was even a claim for matrimonial property, this can only happen after the entire divorce case is over. Then you start a case for matrimonial property.
That could take forever.
Possibly. So something to consider before Johnny
yeah.
takes any action.
What? Then seems like it's a long shot. But anyway, there's hope. John seems like he can get something. My only concern is the intention.
You're absolutely right. I think the question of whether he can get matrimonial property is in this case seems to be slim to nil, because of the possible existence of a prenuptial agreement, as well as the fact that he might not have made any contribution towards the property. But secondly, this is only possible if there's a marriage to start with in the first place, which might be cut off the legs if we find out that he entered into this union for a fraudulent purpose.
Yeah. There you have it, Johnny. You had it at Swala Nyeti. If your intentions to marriage are found to be fraudulent, then the marriage will not count. There also appears to be a possible prenup in agreement, and that also might be add a spanner in the works for you. And this spousal maintenance also, and the entire divorce process will take time. And from me to you, I think it's something to consider. You're a young man. You say you have big dreams. I don't know. Do you want to be spending time in and out of court to get somebody else's money, more or less? Anyway, my opinion. And from me, thank you for listening to the 18th episode of Swala Nyeti. Wakili, we are number 18. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
And join us for our next episode. We have a question. Can we get divorced if we stop loving each other but have no other problems? You know, like brother and sister getting divorced, more or less. Anyway, join us to get the answer to this question in our next episode. From me, goodbye.
Goodbye.
You have been listening to Swala Nyeti. Special thanks to our layman, Gashal Patrick, and our lawyer, Harry Karanja. If you have a legal question that you want answered, send us a WhatsApp message on 0708 111 222 or email us at admin@swalanyeti.org. You can find downloads to all our podcast episodes on our website www.swalanyeti.org.